All right, guys, so in this video, I am going to go through questions 27, 28, 29, and 30, these four right here. So it says in problems 27 through 30, find the function that is finally graphed after the following transformations are applied to the graph of y equals the square root of x. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to graph y equals the square root of x. So I'm going to go to my Desmos right here, and I'm going to bring this guy up. I'm going to take the square root of x, so that square root of x, and that there is the graph of the square root of x. So it's rather interesting. The domain, as you can see, starts at 0 and goes to infinity. So because I have a square root sign, I have no negative values of x are allowed. And for that reason, the range is also from 0 to infinity. The range also has no negative values. So there's the function, the square root of x, or f of x equals the square root of x. So the question number 27, start there, asks us to perform the following three transformations. It wants us to shift it up 2 units, reflect it across the x-axis, and then reflect it across the y-axis. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is shift this function up 2 units. In order to shift it up 2 units, I go to my rules right here. I have to take my function and add the number here, which the number of units that I want to shift up. So f of x plus k, for my k in this case will be 2. So I'm going to take the square root of x plus 2, and that shifts my function up 2 units. So this is the square root of x plus 2. Okay, now we want to reflect across the x-axis. To reflect across the x-axis, right here, I just take, given a function, I take the negative of that function. So I take negative f of x. So to reflect this function here across the x-axis, all I need to do is take minus this function. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a parentheses in front of this, and then I'm going to, either side of this, and then I'm going to put a negative sign, and that reflects my function across the x-axis. Okay, so that's those first two done. 1 and 2, and now I want to reflect it across the y-axis. Remember that to reflect across the y-axis, I replace, maybe if I look over here, I replace x by negative x. That reflects across the y-axis. And so I want to put in here a minus. So I'm going to replace, this is my function, I'm going to replace x with minus x. That means I'm just going to put a minus in front, and there it is. That flips my function across the y-axis, and that's those three transformations complete. And so this graph here goes with this function here, which is minus parentheses the square root of negative x plus 2. That is that graph right there. All right, so that's question number 27 done. Moving on. Question number 28. Again, we're starting with the square root of x, square root of x, just that one right there. And we're asked to perform these three functions. Reflect across the x-axis. Okay, to reflect across the x-axis, I'm going to take the negative of this. So take a negative, that reflects it across the x-axis. That's that rule right there. I want to shift the function to the right 3 units. So I want to shift the function this way 3 units. So I want this point, for example, to be here. So I'm going to shift my whole graph over 3 units. Here, horizontal shifts. If I want to shift the graph to the right h units, I subtract h. I replace h with x minus h. So in this case, my h is 3. So I want to go to the right 3 units. So I'm going to replace x in my function here with x minus 3. So let me do that. That would be x minus 3 right there. So my function has now been flipped over and has been moved to the right 3 units. And finally, I want to shift down 2 units. Well, to shift down 2 units, that's a vertical movement. That means I just take my function and I add or subtract the number of units that I want to move vertically. In this case, I want to move vertically downwards. So that's subtraction, 2 units, that's minus 2. And there we go. There's our graph. this is the graph of negative the square root of x minus 3 minus 2, right there. Okay, that's those first two done. Number 29, again, I go back to, I put in here the square root of x. Let's see, this time I want to reflect about the x-axis. Reflect across the x-axis. Okay, so that's a minus in front. That reflects across the x-axis. Then I want to shift up 2 units. Shift up 2 units. That means that I want to take my function and add 2. So that's plus 2. Bring it into view. There we go. So now my function has been shifted up 2 units. And then finally, I want to shift it to the left 3 units. So to shift to the left 3 units, I want to replace x with x plus 3. That shifts it to the left. So I'm going to replace x here with x plus 3. And that shifts it to the left 3 units. And so you can see that my graph is now moved bang, 2, 3 over like so. And so this here is the graph of minus the square root of x plus 3 plus 2. That's that graph right there. Okay. Moving on. Finally, this one right here. So let me just that out. Square root of x again. And this time, I want to do these 3. Shift up 2 units. Okay, so take my function y is equal to square root of x and shift it up 2 units. To do that, I add 2. That shifts my function up 2 units. Then I want to reflect about the y-axis. So to reflect about the y-axis, I come here, reflection about the y-axis. Again, I replace my x by negative x. That always reflects a function across the y-axis. So in this case, I'm going to replace my x here with minus x. So just put a minus in front, and that reflects it across the y-axis. And then finally, I want to shift it to the left 3 units. Again, to shift to the left 3 units, I want to add 3 right here. Shift the graph of f to the left h units. In my case, my h is 3. So I want to add 3 here. So that will be replace x with x plus 3. Oops, sorry. Minus x, and put in a parentheses, x plus 3. There we go, sorry. So that is negative x plus 3 plus 2. And that is it. That is those problems answered right there, 27, 28, 29, and 30. And so you can see this graph right here. And so this is the graph of the square root of minus x plus 3 plus 2. That is that graph right there. And that is those problems solved.